You know what's crazy about families is how far you're willing to go for said family. You know, I don't talk about I do talk about my family, mention them, not by name and everything because, Lord knows I don't want to get in trouble. But I can tell you honestly that with family, there's a lot of things that, get, complicated at times and even get to a point that sometimes you put certain things at risk. Or at least that's how some people look at it. I mean, you do things around the holiday season which are unplanned, but if you have enough time, they're kind of planned and you're able to hopefully take care of stuff when needed. You know, this this holiday season's one interesting one to say the least. Because over the past several months, the past year, me and my family, me and my siblings, and mostly myself, we like to keep in contact with our dad. Of course, our mom and dad are not together anymore. That's been, the thing for at least 20 years. But, they're still our parents. And we like to keep in contact with them. But if there's one thing that, our father has always been known to do, and that is basically not really communicate as much as he should. Unless it's something he needs, like prayer. Years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he's been getting treatment, shots, and everything ever since then. Or hopefully he still is. But what's even more crazy is the fact that he's stubborn about a few things. And that's kind of how me and my siblings are sometimes too. We're kind of stubborn about stuff as well. And I guess we inherited that from him. But what makes things more stubborn when it comes to him over this past year is not this year, not this March, but last March. He fell and I guess you could say broke his hip or dislodged it. And what I mean by broke or dislodged it was basically the fact that, well, essentially, when he fell, he didn't do anything to fix it. He didn't go to the VA. He didn't call up, the local hospital, which he could be admitted to get treated. Nope. Instead, he let it fester. He let it fester, and he let it fester, and he let it fester. To the point that when he went to, I guess you could say, get up, he couldn't stand up this past spring. To the point that he definitely now needed to go to the hospital. And yes, they did fix his hip. But because of that, as he told me, he's one leg, he's basically shorter on one leg than the other. That's because he's got to, work that back into circulation. And, well, to say that he can't really take care of himself like he used to, he ended up being in a situation that my late grandma was in. And I'm not talking my grandma on his side, his mom. No. I'm talking more along the lines of my grandma on my mom's side. You see, my grandma on my mom's side would have some accidents at times, fall, nearly break her hip and stuff. And eventually there came a time when she did. And my mom and her siblings were like, that's it, that's enough. We got to basically get you some help. And at first they were thinking of an in-home nurse. And I think that worked for a bit. But after a while, I was like, no, this is not going to work. We need to put you in a nursing home. And that's what they did. And they kept the house around for a while, even after she passed. But then they sold it. And they sold it. They didn't leave it in the family. Mostly it was basically the older sibling, my mom's the sister that's older than my mom. My mom's second oldest. That did it. She sold it. So anyway, she ended up in a nursing home until she passed in her sleep. So fast forward. I wouldn't say fast forward, but rewind. Even before that, almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago this summer, my grandma on my dad's side falls on her hip. She falls on her hip, and she ends up in the hospital. And it's not the first time. She actually did this before when I lived out there. But this time around, it wasn't good. And she ended up passing out a little afterwards. And me and my sisters had to go out there around my birthday to pay our respects, support our dad, and, that was it. What's crazy about that is I have two grandparents pass away around my birthday, if not on my birthday. I had my grandpa pass on my birthday when I came out to visit in 2006, and I had my grandma be laid to rest on my birthday. So I have some unusual luck, if you know what I mean, some very unusual luck. But after my grandma passed 10 years ago, my dad's side, and then of course, like I said, fast forward 5 years later, and my mom's mom passes away as well. But during that duration, if you will, in 2014, my dad got removed from where he and I used to live. We used to live in this house in Oskaloosa. It was on my grandma's property, basically hers. And his younger sister, who had head trauma, fell on her head, split it open, got it surgically repaired, but was never the same. She ended up removing him from the property. He had to move. They shuttered up everything, including my grandma's house. And that was it. They did look through stuff and everything, but they didn't allow my dad. And what's funny is they didn't allow my dad or the older sister, if you will, who in the past, me and my sisters, or at least my sisters anyway, had issues with, but over time had grown. She'd actually, believe it or not, matured out of the two sisters my dad had. She actually grown, if you will. Anyway, my dad's younger sister and her husband, not her original husband, but her second husband, decides to shutter everything. And my dad couldn't get anything that belonged to me or him. I mean, heck, a lot of my VHSs from my old apartment stayed, if not were torn down, along with that house. But, and these are recorded VHSs, by the way, not bought ones. I made sure to keep those. I made sure to keep the ones I bought, not recorded. But anyway, getting back on topic. My dad ends up basically having to get a new home, and my older sister helps him out. She helps him out, she gets him into a new place, and he's good to go. And he was at this new place for the past several years. He even came out to visit for Thanksgiving. And that was kind of an awkward situation as well, because my mom basically decided, well, if he's going to be here, I'm going to spend Thanksgiving over at my sister's, which she did. Now, what's interesting is we would still communicate with him. We would still talk with him, and so on. But what was interesting is it would be us, doing the calling. I mean, like I said, he would call when he would need prayer and stuff, like, with the cancer situation. He would call. But afterwards, it'd be like, mostly us calling him and everything. He would send out cards. He would send out Christmas cards. He would send out birthday cards. But then that kind of stopped for a bit. And then, like I said, this past March of 2022, that is, or at least around that time frame, is when he had his fall, but he didn't really do nothing about it, and he just let it deteriorate. Now, again, I can understand his stubbornness for not getting it checked out immediately because, let's be honest, I've been stubborn, still am stubborn, about getting my teeth checked. And believe me when I say that nobody really is very fond of getting their teeth checked, whatsoever. We're not really fond of it. I mean, we know it has to be done. It's just, you either numb up our mouth and keep us awake, or you knock us out completely. And for me, I'm more along the lines of numb me up real good, keep me awake, and I'll be fine. But yeah, I'm just stubborn about it. I mean, I know I got to get it done eventually, but I guess that's where I get my stubbornness from. Because like I said, fast forward to this year, this spring, a year passed, and it finally gets to him. He can't really stand, and he has to be taken to the hospital. They do an operation successfully, and then he has to be taken to a nursing home. And the first nursing home took care of him for a bit, but then something happened, VA-wise or something. I don't know, insurance-wise, I don't know. Can't really say too much. And then after that, he was taken to another nursing home who, for some odd reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, if nursing homes have the right to do this, for some odd reason, took all of his stuff. And when I'm talking about taking all of his stuff, I'm talking his wallet, his license, his glasses, and most importantly, his phone. And that was this past summer. Because the last time I contacted him was to let him know that I was working with my sister at her job. So they basically took that away from him. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's happening? Because later on, I try to contact him, let him know, hey, I put a picture of your mom, my grandma on your side. I put her along with a picture of my mom's parents, up for the Day of the Dead, Month of the Dead tribute, along with everybody else at work that's doing it. And surprisingly, when I text him, I got no response back. And then when I text him again, nothing. When I text him again, I get a message saying you've been blocked. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? So I tell my sisters. And my older sister thinks, well, he's not blocking me, I'll text him. And she got through, but nothing, no response. And so my other sister texts him, and she gets a message, basically saying it didn't go through. Or she tried calling him, nothing. It just went, bring, done. Or it just went straight to, call can't be completed. And then my other sister did the same thing. And this was around Thanksgiving. This was Thanksgiving Sunday for us because, my second oldest sister went to Universal this past Thanksgiving, with her family. So there was no communication. It was like, what's going on? So my older sister, long story short, does a wellness check. She has the cops go over there, does a wellness check, and finds out that he's not at his home anymore. She finds out that everything I just mentioned, him being in certain nursing homes beforehand during the spring and summer, she finds out that not only is he not in his home, he's not even in the city he's living in. Instead, he's somewhere else. Yeah, he's in the central point of Kansas, mostly in K-State country, or K-State city, we'll put it that way. He's in the K-State city. And yeah, long story short, she was not happy. She lit into him a little bit. And apparently, she finds out from this officer she talked to, because again, she had a wellness check done, that, the person that my dad had been with for the past several years, if not decade almost, I think it's the same one we've met, I'm not really sure, that basically she has a reputation, and it's not a good one. And that even those that lived close to my dad, he became friends with, neighbors with, didn't like her either. And apparently there's more to this woman than meets the eye. And the suspicion is she basically may have gotten possession of my dad's wallet and his phone. The only things he got back were his keys and his glasses, and he even told me when I finally talked to him, he said, well, what am I going to do with my keys? I can't drive my truck. Because he left his truck with one of his neighbors. And there's suspicion she might have that as well. That being this girl. So yeah, long story short, my older sister, when she finds out about this, you know, around Thanksgiving, starts making plans. And right now, well, actually, as of last night, or this past Monday night, depending on when you hear this, as of right now, she and my niece, her daughter, are in Kansas. Yeah. They flew out on Monday night from San Jose, and they arrived there this morning, rested up, and they are driving from Kansas City to Topeka and then to Manhattan, because that's where he's located. That's where my dad is being attended to right now, taken care of at. And yeah, there's other reasons why they went out there. One, my sister says she wants to give him a new phone so that he keeps in contact with us, along with an iPad, a tablet, if you will, one that her husband has had saved over for a while, you know, from his previous jobs. So she's doing all that, as well as she's going to try to get some information as to how to correct some issues that would affect the generation that comes after my dad. That'd be her, my second oldest sister, and me. And if by extension, his grandchildren. And she took my niece because apparently my niece is a good listener and she has a degree in criminal justice, or at least she studied for criminal justice. So she's able to pinpoint certain things, pinpoint them. But yeah, it's kind of weird when it comes to families. Families can be tricky. Families can be, you know, very surprising and unpredictable. And I know that my sister is going to do everything in her power to right the wrongs that have happened. In fact, her goal, she once even said it, if she's still maintaining this goal, is to get our father back out here to California. And either have him live with her or put him up in a place where he'll be taken care of and we can, you know, keep an eye on him. And he can get the help he needs. You know, kind of be able to walk again and stuff like that. But yeah, I wanted to wait to do this because I wanted to give her time. Now, I'm not mentioning her by name. I'm not mentioning my dad by name or anything like that. But again, I wanted to give her time because she didn't even want my dad to know. And the reason is because of the fact that if he would know, he would try to get, in her mind, he would try to get a step ahead, let this woman know what's going on, and that would screw things up. But not in this case. Not in this case, because she's going to surprise him. And I told him on the phone, I said, Dad, do not underestimate my sister. Do not underestimate your daughter. And he said he's not, but he has no clue. And by now, it's 6:12 over there. By now, they should be with him, hopefully. But again, I just wanted to give this time, let you guys know what's going on, and kind of ask you to keep this situation in your prayers. Again, I'm not saying any names because honestly, you know, it's that private. But I am letting you guys know what's going on as best as I can. As best as I can. But, you know, let me ask you, in closing, have any of you dealt with something like this? Have any of you gone through a situation where you've dealt with stuff to where your families, any member of your family, parents or whatever, have put you through something like this, to where it's like, instead of letting you know what's going on, the stubbornness that you inherit, you know, prevents them from letting you know, till it eventually comes back to bite them. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Let me know if you've been through this. Love to hear from each and every one of you. And until then, I will talk to you all later. But keep this all in prayer. It'd be very much appreciated.